Welcome to Relationship Real Talk, Live the Lives podcast. For over 20 years, we've been dedicated to strengthening marriages and families through relationship education. Our core goals are to reduce the Florida divorce rate by 50% by 2029, to increase the marriage rate, and reduce teen pregnancy and out-of-wedlock births. For more information about us, you can visit us at livethelife.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Relationship Real Talk. I got more than a couple of guests with me. Start with my left. Introduce yourself.
Logan Kelly. I'm the marriage program director, marriage champion for Northwest Florida.
Jimmy Cash, deputy director of the North Florida Office. Live the life.
Angie Cash. I'm from the Tallahassee Office, and I am the marriage coordinator for Hope Weekend.
And Doug Stevens, and I'm the director of the North Florida South Georgia office.
Cool. And I'm Ashley, your co-host.
You know, the regular Alphonso for the new listeners. And today we have different representatives from some of our regions around Florida. And we're just going to get, some of their stories and even why they work for Live the Life, just so, y'all can hear more about us. So the first question I want to ask everybody, Logan, you'll be first. Okay. So why do you work for Live the Life?
I work for Live the Life because Live the Life is a calling and rescued me from my unemployment. As they used to say, unenjoyment. I was let go from 30 years of radio from iHeart back in 2017, floundered around doing some things like this, podcasting, voice work, and then lo and behold, I got a call in December of 2017 saying that there's this crazy guy named Dennis Stoika that wants to do marriage ministry in Panama City in Northwest Florida. And so through a process, he hired me to kind of head up things in Northwest Florida and Panama City. We've expanded outward, but my wife and I both, Leanne and I both, we come from broken homes. So this is a subject that's very near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? You can just jump in whenever.
Maybe we go in order. Jimmy.
Jimmy. So we came to Live the Life not casually. We came in crisis as a couple, and Live the Life saved our marriage. And we felt so strongly about the purpose and the mission of Live the Life that initially, after recovery, we started volunteering, and then a position came open for marriage program coordinator. Man, I bid on it. I took it. I didn't look back, and then Angie got offered a job, and I'll let her speak for herself. So.
Yeah, so by trade, I've been a nurse for 20-something years, but I've always had the deep yearning, if you will, to follow Christ and His calling for specifically in my life. Did not know exactly what that looked like until we came to Live the Life, and we learned that after 16 years of marriage that we didn't have any great communication skills like we thought we did. And so now I am passionate about saving marriages, decreasing the divorce rate in our state of Florida, especially with first responders and the rural communities of Florida.
So I came to Live the Life in 2018. I was a longtime teacher, coach, athletic director. And a buddy of mine, Glenn Burns, had said, "Hey, do you know Richard Albertson?" I was like, "Yeah, I know Richard." And he said, I just talked to him. He said, "He's got this position that I think is for you." He said, "I think it was designed for you." And I was looking, and so I said, he said, "Can I give Richard your number?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I bet it wasn't like 5 minutes later, Richard called me back. And he asked to do a lunch the next day, and I knew within 30 seconds that the Lord was telling me that this was it. This is where I was supposed to be, and it's been a wrap ever since, man. It's the right one.
I love it. Ashley, I always say you're the best at the quick little history of Live the Life. Just give a quick history of Live the Life for the new listeners just joining in.
Yeah, well, and also I just want to say we're really excited to be here, and here is NARMI.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we have so many people from our different offices. Like we said, we have Panama City, we have Tallahassee, we also have people here, they're not with us, but we have people from Orlando, Jacksonville, South Florida. So it's really exciting to come together as that team and be able to hang out with everyone and kind of just get out of our own regions and hang out with everyone. So that's really exciting. But a little bit about Live the Life is we started in 1998, and it was really out of the need that my dad saw for relationship education, and not just seminars, not just the knowledge, but what are skills, what are practical things that couples can do to bond and connect. And so that came from his own marriage, where he's sitting there thinking, oh, I got this 10 out of 10 marriage, I'm sitting pretty. And my mom was like, no, we're not good. And so he's like, well, where's the disconnect? What is happening? And how can we prevent other couples from going through that? And so from there, that 1998 journey, I remember I was there. It started in our townhouse. I was really little. I'm not gonna say how little because that'll make me feel old. But growing it from that townhouse where my dad, receptionist, bookkeeper, program coordinator, president, all of the things, all the titles, to see from going from that tiny townhouse back room in our house, and then for it to grow to be 5 different offices around Florida, and with national recognition, international recognition, is just incredible. So that's kind of a little bit of the baby bit of the history of Live the Life.
For sure. And then, share why I came to Live the Life. Really, indeed, searching for things I wanted to do. I'm a graphic designer by heart, so trying to find something that I can do with that. I really don't even remember Live the Life specifically, but I got the email from Ashley. I'm like, okay, Live the Life. Okay, it's matching up with everything I'm trying to do. Let me look it up. What was the original title on the site? I think it was like relationship or marriage enrichment. And I was like, okay, that's different. And being in a relationship already, I'm like, okay, let me see. So seeing all the programs that they do for the students, teaching students healthy relationship tips, going from premarital to a marriage tune-up to even marriage in crisis situation. I was like, okay, this would be different, and I could probably learn something from it. And I'm doing what I like to do, so it was kind of a no-brainer. Interview with Ashley, and and we've been here.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to share why you ended up joining the family business?
So, obviously family business, I know everything about it, but even with all of that personal knowledge, ended up going through a very toxic relationship, very toxic marriage, ended up getting divorced, and really just thinking to myself, where did I go wrong? What happened? And that kind of just started me on a journey of okay, what is a relationship? How do relationships look in the brain? What is a healthy relationship? What would make someone be okay with a toxic relationship for 7 years? And why did I get into that? And so I just read pretty much every book I could find on how relationships affect the brain, how sex affects the brain, how, relationships that are healthy, relationships that are unhealthy. Went through John Van Epps' How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk course, got certified in teaching it. And so all of those things kind of just culminated into me being I don't think politics, which is where I was working for 5 years, I don't think politics is really my calling. Don't think that's really where I'm supposed to be. It's it's not a bad place to be, but it's not an uplifting place to be. So kind of just was all right, God, what's going on here? What's happening? My church ended up offering me some positions, but it was only part-time. And then my dad was well, we are growing and we are about to get this huge grant. And then I ended up meeting Doug at Live the Life, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. And so we met, ended up getting offered a job, and just 2018 since.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
I love it. And Logan, I'm come back to you. You're the newest guest on Relationship Real Talk. So you said you came, what year did you come?
2018.
2018.
Wow, what a great year.
So 2018, we're in 2022 right now. What what stories or what life-changing stories have you seen from marriages being fixed since you started?
Well, several, but there's one that comes to mind, and I was really just, when you get to be in the midst of these stories of life change, it's very humbling, and it's awesome to be just part of what God is doing. So there was a couple that came to we did a marriage retreat at a little church on Panama City Beach, and it was this couple, and I followed up with them with some follow-up coaching, and I didn't know this, but the man, they were probably both in their 50s, maybe early 60s, but the man had severe PTSD. And he had done several tours, and he had a therapy dog, and his therapy dog had passed. He got really attached to the therapy dog. So their relationship was under a lot of strain, and they had been through a lot of different helps through the VA and all kinds of different things. And they said what we did, and we were able to help them with, was more impactful and powerful than any of that. So, to be able to help somebody that serves our country in that way, and to help a breakthrough in a really difficult marriage. I mean, that's what we're in it for, So.
Totally.
Doug, I'm gonna kick it to you. We're gonna bounce back around. What's a story that sticks out from you? I know you're in charge of a lot of the crisis counseling that we do, Hope Weekends and stuff like that. So tell a little bit about Hope Weekend briefly, and then just a story that really sticks out that told you that yes, Live the Life is making a change.
So, Hope Weekends are for couples in crisis, but I would say that any married couple should go through a Hope Weekend. We just had a pastor and his wife go through a year ago, and they've been married 17 years, have 4 kids, I think, and she made the statement that Hope Weekend was the most impactful thing that's ever happened in her life outside of her salvation.
Oh, wow.
So there's that. Every area has its own strength. You have True North Project, and we're affecting many students, and just to see, and we've had students that reported that they were going to commit suicide, and we were able to get the appropriate help. We had students that were in toxic relationships and they didn't even know it was toxic. We've taught a lot of students how to have healthy relationships that they didn't know the first thing about it. They've never seen it. They've never seen it modeled. Never even heard about it. So there's that. Our Start Smart program is for premarital couples, and man, I've just seen tons of people get ready for marriage the right way. A lot of people go through marriage counseling, premarital counseling, and for a lot of them it's a joke. It's not. It's like just slap the label.
Yeah, just something to do.
Yeah, just something to do. Start Smart's not that. So there's that. Then there's our Adventures in Marriage and all the conference type stuff that we do, and everywhere I've seen a lot of change in that. And then we have counseling at our office, and I'm our lead counselor in the North Florida, South Georgia office, and so I see a lot of people. And so, it's hard to say just one.
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
But I will say, with our Hope Weekends, that's the couples in crisis one. That is the triage one. Like they're coming in side-eyed at each other. You can see the space between them. When you start, you can feel the frustration and the angst and you can feel the emotion. Like literally, you can feel the emotion. The advantage is if you're leading the Hope Weekend, you know where they're about ready to go. So they don't know where they're about ready to go. We know where they're about ready to go. And so, I don't know, like if I'm allowed to say y'all, I'd say, I'd say them because, there's so many stories. But they started out in counseling, then they did Adventures in Marriage, then they did Hope Weekend, then they became employees. Then they became coaches. And then teachers first or employees first?
employees.
Employees first and teachers. So they've kind of like come full circle with everything. And so, you know, of course I'm proud of them, but there's so many stories like the Cashes that we've had in our office and in every office across the state. We've had the same type of situation. So it's too hard to say one, but I'm gonna say that the Cashes are money. So let's go.
I love it. And even with, and just to stay with Hope Weekend, what's something that you see coming in? What's the attitude of both the men and women that you see? What's the not stereotypical, but what's the regular attitude?
Somebody, at least one of them is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
At least one, if not both of them are hurt. One's generally hurt, the other's pissed off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like there's a great range of emotions. And now, you know, Jimmy and Angie are doing a lot more of the Hope Weekends. And so I know they've seen a lot of it as well. Y'all could speak to it.
Yeah, what I see personally is, because I speak to the couple before, kind of coordinate the date and get everything taken care of, and almost 90% of the time, one spouse is already checked out. I'm just coming because they want me to come. This is probably not going to change anything, but I'm coming just to appease them because I want a divorce. And there's some that has already signed the dotted line that's just waiting for the process to happen. There's some that's got the papers in hand, fixing to serve their spouse on that Monday after Hope Weekend. So that's what I see. And from Friday to Sunday, it's transforming their marriage. And on Sunday morning and at the end of Sunday afternoon, they've gotten hope. They've got hope for a new marriage. They've got hope that maybe we can salvage this marriage and we don't have to get divorced.
Yes. And just seeing that, and Jimmy, I'm going to come to you, just seeing that, the transformation, how does that affect you in your relationship? So is it a positive? Do you feel like pressure to be this creme de la creme couple? How does that make you feel?
No, actually we're real. We're very real. We're very real with our testimony at Hope Weekends. We cry right along with our couples. We laugh with our couples.
That's good.
And it's just, I'm getting weepy just thinking about it. It is. We're real people. We have real problems. And I think that they really are thankful that we're not just someone standing up, looking over them, telling them how they can make their marriage great.
Right.
So Jimmy, what do you see when couples first stand? What's the first thing you notice?
First and foremost, knowing what God brought us out of. No one's story intimidates me anymore. So like they will come in.
I like it.
Everyone, just like Doug said, so hard-sided. Just like not facing each other. Their body language is really abrasive, and they all basically all come in like porcupines in pain, on Friday night. And like Angie said, there's a transformation process that takes place over the course of the weekend. I do like to break the ice on Friday nights. At the right time, I will say, listen, I just want to let you guys know, and I'll give them our story. And you'll see some of that softening when we give our testimony. And then I also have something that I quote before the end of the night, and that's S.M. Lockridge, a pastor from way back, and he had a sermon called "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming," and they don't understand and they don't know what that means until Sunday gets there. And then they look back at us and go, you know what, Sunday was coming, wasn't it? Yeah, it sure
And you know
was.
what, just to that, like literally just sitting here thinking about that, I'm gonna equate your story and your experiences at Hope Weekend with the new Top Gun movie, because I feel like it's literally perfect. But you know how and I'm sorry if you haven't seen Top Gun, but literally you should have already seen it by now.
Go crazy.
So
He hasn't. This is a big
Spoiler alert.
spoiler.
Hey, but
Close
it's
your
okay.
ears, Alfonso.
it's not a big spoiler. But and actually maybe, I don't know. But like, you know, when like, I feel like the couples going in are like the cadets and they're like watching, they're like seeing this thing and they're like, this is literally impossible. Like there is no way we can do this. And then y'all are like Tom Cruise and you go and you do it in less than time and you show them it is possible. And then they're filled with hope. And I'm like literally getting teary eyed because I'm like, that's so true. Like these people, they just don't think like even if they've tried everything else and they've given it their all before, this isn't possible. Then they go and they see you guys and they're like, wow, okay, maybe it is possible. Maybe we can do this. So that's really cool.
But I think the difference there, Ashley, is that some of these ones have gone to tons of stuff.
Right.
Yes.
I've had couples that have paid tens of thousands of dollars going to the top ones, what they thought was the top ones in the country. Then they came to the top one, which was Home Weekend. And they were set free. I've got so many now that they report that their marriage is in the best place that it's ever been.
Yeah.
And these are decade-long marriages. I just had a friend of mine that went through. They had been married 27 or 29 years. They had 5 kids, and they were separated for a year. They were done. And I said, listen, you cannot be done. You at least have to try to go through a Hope Weekend first. So they came down, and you know, it's funny because the wife was so like, she was calling up, but she was like, "Are these trained and certified counselors?" And, you know, she was so like, you know, and you know, to be fair, they had gone through a lot of stuff. Like they had gone through a lot of counseling. A lot of people, by the time they got to us, they've gone to counselors. Which, by the way, the counseling success rate is less than 20% across the nation. You know, Hope Weekend success rate is about 86%. So that's what I would say.
Right.
Exactly.
To that.
And then Logan to bring you in, out of the programs y'all do in Panama City, seeing the change, how does that affect you in your personal life?
Well, it's what we live for. I mean, that's why I say this was a calling for me. I didn't even realize, but back when I was in my radio days, these are the kinds of things I like to share, because most people, you know, I always use the example of, you know, when you're having a baby, what's the book you read? You read What to Expect When You're Expecting. You read it over and you read it over. And then this baby gets home, there's this real life thing, and you're like, what do we do now? It's the same thing with marriage. You spend all this money and do all these things for this perfect day, Instagram worthy, Pinterest worthy. It's amazing. And then, you know, a year and a half, 2 years later, you're like, now what? You know, nobody knows. So when you can see the light bulb go off, that is the best. You know, I love it, and I enjoy actually demonstrating the skills with Leanne, because when we can do, like, say, we can do a heart-to-heart together, or we can do the trash can together or something like that, some of the skills we teach that really bonds you. I love the Mr. Rogers expression, I use it all the time when I teach is the distance between two people who are trying their best to understand each other is sacred ground. And I feel that sacred ground when I'm doing it with Leanne, and I see that sacred ground when I see couples really trying to connect with each other. And that's what we get paid for. We're not in it for the money. You know, we're in it for that. So yeah.
And then we got some more visitors with us real quick. Introduce yourself for the podcast. I'm gonna start with Miss Elizabeth.
I'm Elizabeth Albertson. I'm married to the founder, Richard Albertson, and we started Live the Life almost 25 years ago.
I'm Richard Albertson and one of the co-founders of Live the Life.
Yeah. So we've just been talking. Oh, sorry, Lisa, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know you'd gone yet.
Lisa May, Executive Director for the Live the Life South Florida office.
So that's actually really exciting because we just talked about how we had some people that weren't here yet, but we have South Florida and we have the president, and so that's really, really awesome. We were kind of just talking about what are some stories that you guys have seen of life change in your regions, or I mean, whatever you've done with Live the Life.
Did one of y'all want to chime in?
Oh, you want like a specific example of a life change, or
just anything you've seen throughout the years, especially you, the founder.
There are so many. It's hard to just zero in on just one. There's just so many. We just did a single parents retreat in Luke Air Force Base, and we saw the evaluations, and they were talking about how encouraged they were that they had a network of other parents, because single parents, it's the toughest job in the world. And these moms and dads are out there just doing a Herculean effort, but they feel alone.
Yeah.
And so we are very intentional about having them work together as a team. So for the whole weekend, even though they're with their kids, they're with other adults. And so the fact that we intentionally do a lot of things to get them to get to know each other, spend time together, and build those bonds, to have them walk away from that, and now they're going back, I'm going back to the base, and I feel like I have a community now. I feel like that's so missing, community. When we were, those of us that are a little older, that Friday night in the home gym feeling that many of us grew up with, those gyms are empty now. People don't go out in the community. They don't go out and participate. And so we're missing that sense of identity and community as a community. So for them to walk away with that just happened a couple weeks ago, and that just really blessed me. So there's so many, there's just thousands and thousands of couples and families that have been through the programs. It's hard to just think of just one.
Well, on the same line, we just were at Taos and had an incredible retreat, but it was so heart-wrenching because one of the couples that was coming up, as they were coming up, found out that one of his best friends had just committed suicide the day after his divorce was finished. And for him, he said it was such a good thing that he came to the retreat because he got to process it with his wife and not have all the pressures of everything going on. And it probably really changed the trajectory of where that could have gone, because he said it was just, anyway, there's a lot to that, but it was really encouraging to be able to be there for that couple and all the couples, but they're dealing with so much, so it was really encouraging to have that time with them.
And we just got back from Clovis, New Mexico, and we were doing this really easy date night, which is just fun and playful. We have a good time. And this woman walked up to us, and she's coming up and she's just hugging us. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Richard." Who do I know in Clovis?
She's not even in the
Who do we know
military.
in Clovis? Her husband's in the military, and we always say we scholarship at least one military couple a month to come to our Hope weekends. And so her and her husband had come to a Hope weekend in Jacksonville. They had 6 or 8 months before that. And she says, "I wanted to meet Richard and Elizabeth Albertson and tell them, you saved our marriage. We are still practicing those skills." And I asked the chaplain, I said, "My husband can't come because he's working tonight for that date night. Can I come? I just want to meet them and say hello and tell them you saved our marriage." I wish we had learned this stuff 20 years ago. It's made all the difference in our communication and how we deal with conflict. Why didn't we learn this? And what you have is life-giving.
Wow.
And I said, would you mind telling these couples here, because we want these couples here to come to one of our adventures in marriage. And so she got up and she grabbed the microphone. "You people need to go to this. You people need to go to this." So we have that all the time.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I just love the fact I ask that question every time a new member comes on, and it's like you guys say the same thing, quote unquote, and then start telling a story, and then it's such a genuine response of how happy it makes you personally to see that you're making an effect on somebody's life. And Lisa, I know we definitely South Florida. We don't hear from you on the podcast ever. New guest, newest member. What's something that you've seen in South Florida just impact that you guys are making?
We have a lot of the same scenarios that all of you here have experienced, but right now what really stands out in my mind is the student programming, because most people don't realize that we do so much for students. And I've actually had people say, if your main thrust is marriage, why are you talking to the students? And our curriculums have been developed so that they're progressive. We look at the student part, and that's our prevention piece for the breakdown of your family later. And what we're seeing in Broward County, which by the way, is the 6th largest school district in the United States of America. So it's not just some little county. I mean, it has made changes, but we're in 42 schools there, and what we're seeing is a drop in student incidences, a drop in truancy, a drop in being late to class. And we're hearing from students that it's making a relationship difference within their homes, no matter what that home looks like, because we have a tendency to think that it looks like the home that I grew up in, where I have my biological parents. Most of these kids don't grow up in that environment, but they say when they take our class, they learn how to go home and understand that what I'm seeing is his personality. And then I know how to respond to it. What they're seeing is I learned to, if I can remember to express an appreciation, for something that someone's done that I live with, whether even in group homes, it changes the dynamics of the relationships. When you hear a student say, I didn't believe I had a choice about consent.
Mm.
You know, so the student program, you know, I just sometimes look at it and think we don't talk about it enough because it is
Right.
so substantial. And in Broward County alone, in the last 5 years, we've touched more than 20,000 students. And one of the things too that I'm very excited about is because the Florida governor has been such a stalwart advocate for what we do, is we have partnered with Florida State University, the Center for Prevention Research, to make a comparison for DeSantis, who has said every student in the public market in Florida, beginning in middle school through seniors, will receive 5 hours of social and emotional learning every year. Well, we've partnered with Florida State to show what is the difference in the child that's getting 5 hours a year versus the difference in the student that's getting 32. Because right now we have 9 schools in Broward County that have asked for full days, full semesters.
Wow.
And we want to be able to go back and say, you really want to make a change of behavior? We need to invest more heavily in social emotional wellness within our schools, our students. You no longer can take for granted that they're getting it at home.
I love it.
And Lisa, isn't one of your schools, doesn't it have like 1,000 kids on the waiting list?
Yes, Fort Lauderdale High School had 1,000 kids on the wait list to take the class, and that's a full semester class there.
Wow.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It is, it's amazing, it's amazing. So I just look at that as this is our prevention piece, and then so many of our marriage pieces, which I think are the best in the world, they are our maintenance, and then our Hope Weekend, that's our intervention.
Yeah.
So we try to do the full swath.
That's amazing. And then once you touch the youth, it's just going to trickle down to the generations before them, like you said, their parents, and then even future, how they handle their lives. So you're right. We definitely don't shed enough light on the student programs because it is affecting teens in a major way, even from just interviewing skills. There's a lot of me teaching that lesson. That there's a lot of things they don't know. A kid, they think, oh, well, this is my resume here. They can just ask me questions. They don't research, do their own research about the company. You can ask your interviewer, okay, what is something that you see in your company? Where do you see your company going? And really just creating that structure that they can realize, okay, I can ask this. I can be assured of myself. I can point out what's okay and what's not okay. And I just love hearing that because that was new information completely. So hearing that, I'm still kind of taken aback by that. And just because we're short on time, I definitely want to propose this last question and just jump in, whoever wants to answer it. $1 million is gifted to you. 1 million.
So glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked.
Lisa May is the one you want to ask this question.
1 million. Somebody says, you know what, Lisa, here you go. Do what you want, whatever you want. Here's $1 million. What do you want to do with it? How do you see yourself making an impact?
Well, the next question is, I'm going to ask for the second million.
Don't you love it?
First of all, Lisa's always the one getting the $1 million one, so I'd like it to be.
No, seriously, I mean, I'm always going to ask for money unashamedly because for whatever reason, that's what God used to move things forward. He used men and he used money to move the mission forward. So I ask unapologetically. We're looking for that gospel patron out there, but what I would love to do is, first of all, Live the Life needs their own retreat center. Okay, we need a marriage retreat center. That would be mine. And the second one is that we do a massive statewide first, then national campaign on the importance of marriage and why does it matter.
Let's go.
Love it.
Love it.
So real fast, I want to add mine.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
To your point earlier about the student programs, I would like to invest funding for the lobbying efforts to raise and pass legislation across the board for our state, for there to be a mandatory amount of relationship education beginning in middle school through 12th grade for every public school throughout the state.
I agree with you completely, and that is on the horizon. That's why I'm related.
And then my second million would go towards the Florida Sheriff's Association to loosen their purse strings so that they would pay for relationship education for their deputies and law enforcement and first responders. Smile.
I have a question for Alphonso, because I noticed that he has a bigger smile on his face today. He always has a big smile on his face. But has anyone noticed that his smile is even bigger today? Alphonso, can you help us? Has anything happened in the last 24 hours that just brought you sheer joy?
Not necessarily.
Is there something that you want him to
Yeah,
say?
So I need to show you the video,
Is this a
Alphonso.
trick?
I saw you as a little kid yesterday, and your smile, smile
Roll
could not have gotten
Already
any bigger.
know.
Okay.
It could not have gotten any bigger, and I have the video to prove it,
Yes.
We do.
to show it to you.
Yes, I am a little bit off of a high on that. We went. What was the place called that we went to? The exact
Snowbird.
Snowbird.
Yeah, resort
And
or
Mirror
something.
Lake.
Yeah.
Yes, what was the type of slide? you
Alpine
said?
coaster.
Alpine coaster, definitely. He caught me in 4K, speeding around the loop, and I loved it,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
But I will say, I am feeling anytime that we get a chance to create content, and I hear the stories from everybody, and then even hearing your stories, Lisa, because again, South Florida, we don't get to communicate that often. It's from a 25-year-old's perspective, it makes me genuinely happy that, okay, it is change being made on things that matter. So hearing Doug, you talk about all the couples that need help, and then throwing it to Angie, talking about the specific couples and how you see the transformation from that Friday to Sunday. To Lisa, you talking about the students. Richard, you talking about you just being here. Anytime we can get you on an episode, I love it. Even Logan, sharing what you guys are doing, because people need to hear it from old to young, everybody. So anytime that we can get everybody together, and the fact that y'all came in, thought we were going to miss you with the time that we have in this space. So I am a little happier.
Bigger smile.
For
Yes.
sure. Love it. For sure. Ashley, you have anything you want to propose?
Man, I'm trying to still think about my million. Doug, do you want to talk about your million?
Actually, Lisa hit it. So
Okay, yeah.
I'll
Wait.
share the retreat center.
Great minds think alike. I'll share with you too.
And then Logan, what about you?
I don't have the big picture thinking. Once Lisa says it, it's like, yeah, that sounds fun. Because I think the biggest thing is we want everybody to go through all these programs that we have, because what we always say, and I think most of the population doesn't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And we want to do things so that they will.
They can live a life.
Yes.
Yeah, that
And they
life.
can live a life.
I
Absolutely.
love it. I love it. Thank you guys for
Thank
coming
you.
this episode before we get kicked out of this room. It was a pleasure talking to everybody. Thank you, Ashley. Any last words?
No last words. I'm good.
All right, and we'll talk to you next time. Remember, we are now offering free classes in Florida through our Healthy Marriage Initiative grant. If you are interested, check out livethelife.org/aim. If you are military and you are interested in learning more about this program, you can reach out to us by emailing ashley@livethelife.org. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you feel educated, encouraged, and empowered to thrive in whatever relationship you're in.